What's up, bitches?
Let's talk about crime.
What's up, bitches?
Hello.
We should have had a spooky Halloween version.
What's up, bitches?
Because this is our Halloween episode. I mean, I know you're listening to this on Tuesday,
Boogly, bitch.
but you're listening on a Tuesday before Halloween, so we should have had it be like a beer, beer, woo.
For those of you that are wondering what the hell just happened, my dad, because we're still in my room, right, for our setup, because I'm moving.
Can't.
But my dad just literally busted open the door and screamed, and that's
I can't.
what happened with my mom.
Oh my God. Oh, my heart hurts. I'm gonna
You're gonna have to put like a caution for like
loud noises.
loud noises.
God damn. Depending, I may have to cut that out because that shit scared the balls out of me. Anyways, yeah, we should have done something that was like spooky for it being Halloween, but it's okay. Maybe next year.
We do have a special guest.
We do. She's not a big talker though.
No.
And she likes to just silently sit and stare, kind of creepily actually. But it's our little olive pie. She's not little. She's Big Bertha. She's a big baby, but she's one of our dogs.
She's my baby.
She's actually Sierra's dog, but really she's my dog because I paid for her. So
In the beginning.
And she lives in my house and I'm her Gigi because it's Sierra's dog. So she's in here today because, well, she's a little feisty sometimes with the other two. And she didn't want to
And
get
she's scared of Halloween.
And she didn't want to get off oh my gosh. She's scared of everything, but especially Halloween. We were putting up Halloween decorations and she was so scared.
She loves Christmas. That's about it.
Obviously, she's my dog because she loves Christmas. Anyways, okay, so we're going to get into it. Again, this is a Halloween episode. So I decided to look up crimes that happened on Halloween. And surprisingly, there was only like 7 that I could find that I had to pick from. So I figured there'd be more, but it wasn't. So this is the one I chose. And it's not anything to laugh about. So I'm laughing. I don't know if I've done it yet in this podcast. I do it a lot in Fatal Blend. If you hear me laughing when somebody dies, I don't find it funny. It's the way I cope and deal with shit.
She's just a psychopath.
I laugh because it's uncomfortable. And when it's uncomfortable and I laugh, it makes it
Listen, she does sock, shoe. She's a psychopath.
I do. That's true. I do. That's not a lie. So what we're going to talk about is we're actually going to talk about Halloween of 1974 in Deer Park, Texas. This is where Ronald murders his 8-year-old son. So we are talking about Ronald O Bryan. And see, this is where you should have the woo, just because it's Halloween. So Ronald O Bryan was born October 19th, 1944. And honestly, I could not find a goddamn thing about his young childhood years or even teenage years. Like nothing. I looked up as much as I could. There's nothing about this man, like his trial, like nothing. I couldn't even find out who his parents were. I have no idea. So we're going to skip all the way forward to when he's a young adult and he actually marries Danine. So Ronald, we're going to skip again all the way to his earlier adulthood where he is married and he has married a woman named Danine. And they have 2 children, Timothy, who was born April 5th, 1966, and Elizabeth, she is born in 1969. Now, Ronald is an optician, and he works at Texas State Optical in Sharpstown, Houston. He's also a deacon at the Second Baptist Church, and he sings in the choir, and he ran a local bus program that they had in his area. He ran that as well. So right now it's kind of like, cool. Yeah, he's like a stand-up guy, right? They were also a middle-class family. And people who knew him actually described him as a good Christian man and an above average father. He was known by all others as a model citizen. So he's just this guy who lives in this neighborhood, who helps his community. People know him because he's an optician. He's like an eye doctor type dude. He's got 2 kids and life is good.
Like keeping up with the Joneses.
I don't even know if it's that or he just was really, I don't know, he just came across as a nice person. Now, what people didn't know is that Ronald actually struggled to keep a job. He had actually been employed by 21 different companies in a 10-year period. That's like a new job every 6 months.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. But nobody knew this. Only he knew this. And he was fired from all of his jobs for either negligence or fraudulent behavior. So it's not like he quit. He got fired from every single one of his 20 jobs. All of them were for fraudulent behavior or negligence. Now, in 1974, he was actually getting close to being fired from the Texas State Optical place that he worked at. They had actually suspected him of stealing money from them. So again, another job going to be gone. Now, one of the things at the time that was not known to anybody was that, including, by the way, his wife, nobody knew this about him. He was in a massive amount of debt. He actually had about $100,000 worth of debt. He had defaulted on several bank loans. His car was on the verge of being repossessed, and the family home had been foreclosed on. So literally, he's like falling apart, and nobody fucking knows this about him. So this is going to bring us just right into the murders. This is how it's going to go. So on October 31st, 1974, Ronald and his children, Timothy and Elizabeth, they were out trick-or-treating along with their neighbor, Jim Bates, and his 2 children, which there are conflicting reports about 1 child versus 2 children for Jim Bates. Most reports said 2, but there were a few that said 1. But regardless, they went trick-or-treating. Ronald and Jim took their kids trick-or-treating after having dinner and hanging out because they're friends. They go through a couple of houses and they come to a house that has all of the lights off. The kids decide they want to knock anyways, which, by the way, I'm just going to point out really quick. If you come to a house and their lights are not on, do not fucking knock on their door.
Yeah, I was always taught like
You
their
don't
porch
do
light
that.
or a light of some sort has to be on to signal that they're
Absolutely. And by the way,
trick-or-treaters.
this is not dogging on the kids. This is actually dogging on the parents. If you see a house that has no lights on, you don't knock on the door for a few reasons. 1, they might not be home. But 2, more importantly, what if it's somebody who doesn't believe in Halloween or celebrate Halloween and first of all, that's fucking rude. And second of all, it's been a known thing for millions of years that the lights that are on are welcoming, the lights that are not on are go home, go away. Anyway, so they decide to knock on the door and they stand out there for a hot few minutes and nobody answers the door and the kids are like, fuck it, let's go to the next house. So they run to go to the next home and Jim's like, I got it. And he kind of chases behind them. Well, Ronald ends up kind of getting left behind because the kids ran off. Jim kind of ran off with them real quick. So he slowly kind of catches up with them. Well, when he gets to them, he actually had a handful of Pixy Stix, like the motherfucking 21-inch ones. Those big bad boys, big, like a fucking 21-inch. That's a big ass Pixy stick. You know what I'm talking about? Like bigger than a ruler, because a ruler's 12 inches, right?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
All right. So he comes back with these big fucking Pixy Stix and he says to the kids, oh yeah, so after you guys left, somebody actually came to the door and they handed me these Pixy Stix and asked how many kids were with me. I told them and he just handed them to me. And so he gives one to each of the kids and realizes he has one extra because he has 5 of them. That's kind of like at that point, the dads are kind of like, let's just start heading home. Well, as they're heading home, Ronald sees a kid that he recognizes from his church, like where he is a deacon and stuff. And so he's like, hey, here's a Pixy stick. Good to go. They all go home. All, whatevs. Life is good. Well, before the kids go to bed, they ask if they can have a piece of candy. Now, I don't know about y'all, but when I was a kid, my mom never limited our candy. And I got sick every fucking Halloween. She did not limit.
You limited.
Yes, I did.
Our candy.
Yes, because I grew up never having a limit. I would go home, separate all my candy out, chocolates, non-chocolates, and then fucking gross shit. and I'd take all the gross shit and like get rid of it. And then I'd pick a bunch of candy to eat that night. And I would go to bed every night feeling like shit. And 9 times out of 10, I was puking in the middle of the night because I ate so much candy. Hence the reason y'all grow up and I was like, you guys get 3. You guys get 3 because I'm not having y'all be sick. Anyways, so, and we have think about it this way. We have our tradition is to eat chili, and then we have maple bars, and we have like caramel apples
Candy.
and candy. And that was our tradition when I was a kid. So I was throwing up candy, caramel apples, maple bars.
No,
chili. Yeah, it was not good. Anyways, so they're like, okay, you guys can have 1 piece of candy before bed. Pick 1. So Angela picks 1. She eats hers. Timothy looks at his dad and he's like, I want the Pixy Stick. My fucking man, because I do the same thing. It's the biggest thing in there. So his dad's like, okay, yeah, here. Well, Timothy complains because, first of all, he can't get it open. And when he does get it open, it's like he like tilts it back to put it like in his mouth, but it's like stuck. So the dad takes it and kind of like rolls it in his hands and like gets it all loose. And he's like, here. Timothy dumps a bunch in his mouth, and within seconds, he starts complaining that, oh my God, this is so gross. It's really bitter. I don't like it. Ew, it tastes gross. So his dad runs and gets him a glass of Kool-Aid to help him wash it down. A few minutes later, Timothy starts to complain that his stomach's hurting, and he runs to the bathroom and he starts vomiting like a lot. And all of a sudden he just starts convulsing. Ronald and his wife, they call the ambulance. They rush him to the hospital, but he dies on his way to the hospital. Now, all of this happens less than an hour after he ate that Pixy Stick. Okay. And he's 8. Let's not forget. Now, this death actually triggers an investigation because a young boy has now died after eating candy on Halloween. And Mike Hinton, he was working on filtering in police calls. And he ends up being the one who actually receives this call from the Pasadena Police Department. And my knowledge on what I was trying to understand is I think he's like, I think he's like an attorney kind of, or something like that, where they take police intake calls and then they decide what people are doing with them, I guess. So he's there this night, and he gets a phone call from the Pasadena Police Department that says, hey, we have a situation where an 8-year-old boy went trick-or-treating, got home. His parents said that he ate some candy and he is now dead. And so immediately he's like, yeah, something's not right. That's fucking weird. Mike ends up calling a friend of his who's a chief medical examiner. And he says to him, this is a case that I just got. This 8-year-old boy, he ate some sort of candy, and he got really sick and he is dead. And I need to find out what's going on. So then the chief medical examiner said, well, you need to call the morgue and you need to ask them what his breath smelled like. He calls the morgue and he's like, hey, that 8-year-old young boy, does his breath, I mean, he's not breathing, but does his mouth, or like, can you smell anything inside of his mouth? And the guy in the morgue says, yeah, it smells like almonds. Well, the chief medical examiner then says, you need to get an autopsy done. This boy has been poisoned with cyanide, because cyanide smells like almonds. That's how you can tell that it's poison. I don't know. If you smell almonds in your food and there's no almonds, it's cyanide.
Better stop eating shit with almonds.
So they do end up doing an autopsy, and it does reveal that Timothy had been poisoned with enough cyanide to kill 2 grown men.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah. Later, they did tests and they found that the top 2 inches of the Pixy Stick were stacked with cyanide.
2 inches?
2 inches of cyanide in his Pixy Stick. Now, the police, after finding this out, they talked to Ronald and they talked to Jim, and they, talking to all these people, and they're like, did anybody else get these Pixy Sticks? And they're like, yeah, there was 5 of them. And so they go and they end up collecting all of the other Pixy Sticks. And they found, when they looked at them, that every single one of them had been tampered with because they all had been sealed at the top with staples. Which Pixy Sticks were not sealed with staples in the fucking 80s, 70s, 80s. They're not even now. But so that they already knew, they were like, okay. And it was really crazy because when they actually went to go, because they were like knocking on the doors, because this all happens so quick. Timothy gets ready for bed, eats the Pixy Stick, goes to the hospital, dies. Well, as soon as that comes out, they start going to the neighborhoods. So this hasn't even been a full day. So the police are knocking on the doors of the people. who they gave him to. Well, they're talking to Jim. They talk to Ronald. And then Ronald's like, oh, I gave one to blah, blah, blah. He goes to our church. So they go there. Well, they find that one of the other boys that he had given the Pixy stick to had actually tried to eat the Pixy stick, but couldn't get it open because of the staple. And he fell asleep with it in his hand. Thank God. Seriously, thank God.
That's his guardian angels fucking
For
watching over him.
For real. Now, at first, Ronald is obviously not a suspect because he is the one who legitimately tried to save his son, right? So they bring him back to the neighborhood the next day where the Pixy Stix came from. And they're like, can you tell us which house you got these from? Or at least like describe who gave them to you. And he can't do either. He actually says that the person appeared in the doorway mysteriously, barely opened the door and just gave him the candy and shut the door. But it was too dark to see who it was. And he did know that it was a man with hairy arms. Which to this, the cops thought, that's a little weird. It's a little weird that you can't describe to me, first of all, the house that these came from. And you also can't describe who, like the person that gave them to you. So they leave the neighborhood and they go, they come back, they talk and they're like, no, something's not fucking right. First of all, if you're they'd only gone to like 3 or 4 houses in this neighborhood. So it should not be that hard to remember which house you got the Pixy Stix from. So they bring him back to the neighborhood and they basically say, you need to think very fucking hard about this. We need you to tell us the house that these fucking Pixy Stix came from. Your son is dead because of this. You need to tell us now. And something's not right. You're not telling us the truth. Well, he's like, yeah, okay. That's the house. So now all of a sudden he knows which house it is. He ends up pointing out this home and he's like, that's the house that we went to that was dark, blah, blah, blah. So they look up the house, they look up who owns it, and they find that there's a man who does own it. And as soon as they find out who the man is, they actually go to his work and they arrest him right on the spot. And then they bring him in. And as they talk to him, they find out that he's like, well, I was at work on Halloween and my wife and my daughter had actually turned off the lights early because we ran out of candy. So they were like, okay. And they said, let's check. Do you have an alibi?
And they weren't giving away Pixy Stix because he said it was candy, not which
right,
I know Pixy Stix are candy, but they would have said like, oh, you guys were giving out Pixy Stix, and they were like, no.
Right. Well, I'm sure they did talk about that too. So he's there. He's like, can anybody like corroborate your alibi? And he's like, yeah, like 200 people. I work at the airport. They said, okay, let's find out. Sure as shit. Time cards, people, they all knew he was there. He was there. Now, also, Ronald has already said it was a man. So it's not the wife. It's not the daughter. Okay. So that shit's not true. Now, this is when the police are kind of like, okay, hold on. Something's very much not right. He says he doesn't know the house. Then he points to the house. The guy is at work with a clear alibi. They admit to turning their lights off, but it's 2 girls in the house, a woman and her daughter. They're not handing out Pixy Stix. Like something is definitely not right. Not much time now passes as they're continuing to look into this, and they discover that Ronald had actually taken out a life insurance policy on both of his children. Now, the life insurance policy was $10,000 in January of that year. So earlier in January, he had gone and taken out 2 life insurance policies, $10,000 for each child. But then a month before, so in September, he went back and he upped that to $20,000 per child. So that's now sending some red flags off. And they also realize he is in a fuck ton of debt. What they do find out is that Ronald had also called the insurance company at 9:00 in the morning the day after Timothy died to ask about insurance money and when he would get that money. So all this information they find out actually helps them secure a search warrant. And they go into the house and they find a pair of scissors with plastic residue attached. And the plastic residue was very similar to the residue on the Pixy Stix. They found some other items as well. But that's kind of where they go and they're like, we would like to arrest you and ask you some questions. So that's what they do. They arrest Ronald and they take him in for questionings and they find there are multiple things that make the case against Ronald. So first of all, not even the insurance. So with the insurance, with the matching residue, with all that stuff, they found out that he had asked an acquaintance of his who works with chemicals What is more lethal, cyanide, or is there another type of poison? So they find that out. They also find that a person went to this chemical company, and they said that a man had come in who was looking to buy cyanide. Now, the man left without buying any because he was told that the smallest amount that he could buy was 5 pounds. Which, why the fuck are we letting people buy 5 pounds?
5 pounds?
I don't even know, like, what in real life is cyanide used for other than fucking poisoning. Because I don't know, but I don't know why we need 5 pounds. But that was the smallest amount. So he left. Now, the person could not identify Ronald, but what he did say was that the person was wearing a beige or a blue smock like a doctor. And now remember, Ronald's an optician, and that's with his exact uniform. If you heard that, that was Miss Olive snoring in the background. So during all of this time, Ronald is maintaining his innocence. He swears he wouldn't do it. He says he wouldn't kill his own child. And then it was said that it seemed like Ronald actually enjoyed the attention he was receiving for being a suspect. So the detectives were saying, like, he actually seems like he's happy to be receiving all of this attention. Which kind of makes sense because also they had a funeral it was a funeral for Timothy. Well, they had it televised. I don't know why, but I think it's a smaller area. So they had it televised, and he got mad at his family members that were staying like with him because after the funeral portion was done, they were going to go to bed because it was late. And he was pissed because he had written a special song for Timothy and sang it on TV, and they didn't want to stay up and watch it. And he got mad at them for that. So I can see how he might be a little bit of an attention whore. So anyway, so he does go to trial, and he enters a not guilty plea. And his defense claims that the Pixy Stix were not from him, and that a very sick man had used Halloween as a way to poison children. Now, at this point, the media had dubbed him the Candyman. They had dubbed Ronald the Candyman. Now, friends and family testified against him at the trial, too. Some of them talked about how he had an interest in cyanide and how much it would take to kill someone, like a really weird interest in that kind of information. And his brother-in-law and sister-in-law testified that he had actually talked about using the insurance money that he got from Timothy to go on a long vacation and to buy some stuff. If your fucking child dies,
what a piece of shit.
You're definitely not going to fucking even think for a second what you can use his fucking money for. Okay?
That should be the least of your fucking concerns if you're really not guilty.
It's for real, yeah. Daneen also testified that Timothy did not actually pick the Pixy Stick. So remember I said Timothy wanted the big 21-inch Pixy Stick. So she actually testified that no, he didn't actually want that, but Ronald forced him to take the Pixy Stick as his one piece of candy for the night. Literally said, no, take this one. And he was like, I want this. He's like, no, you want this one. You take this one. So on June 3rd, 1975, it took 46 minutes for the jury to come back with a guilty verdict. And he was guilty of 1 charge of capital murder and 4 counts of attempted murder. Because remember, there were 5 Pixy Stix.
Right, because the other kids.
Exactly. Now, 1 hour after that, they sentenced him to death by electric chair. So it only took him 46 minutes to decide guilty and only an hour to decide his punishment.
I mean, to be fair,
it's a child.
Well, and not only that, but it seems pretty...
It's cut and dry.
Yeah. Like there's no
Yeah, it's cut and dry. The other thing is, I didn't write this down, so I'm just going to say this now. A lot of people were really fucking not just mad at Ronald for killing an 8-year-old child or killing his own 8-year-old child. They were fucking pissed because he also essentially ruined Halloween for this town. A lot of people who lived in this town no longer celebrate Halloween, but also he ruined the idea of collecting candy. From this story on is when people started talking about, careful, you're going to have drugs in your candy, poison in your candy. Your parents have to cut them open and look. This is kind of what started this, because that's what the media ran with it, called in the Candyman and all this stuff. And they call him the man who ruined Halloween. And they were all over with the things. And people are like, holy shit, if your own father can hide candy or can hide poison in candy, who the fuck, what kind of stranger can't? And again, he tried to do this why the fuck are you trying to do it to 5 people? I don't.
Well, and not only that, but your own kid.
Your own 2 children. Because really, truly, I think his goal was to kill both of them that night, because he would have gotten $40,000. And that's in the 70s, $40,000 in insurance money to kill both of his children. Now, his ex-wife, she's an ex-wife, obviously. She came out and said that she actually thinks the original target was her, because she said that he had actually set up an appointment to do a life insurance policy on her, and it got moved. And they had already set one up for their kids too, because he had was going to do it all. And she said that she thinks she was actually the original intended target. And then when it didn't happen, he switched it to the kids.
Which is just awful.
Yeah, it's fucking terrible.
All around awful. But just think as the mom, you're probably sitting there wishing one, that it would never happen. But you're probably sitting there going, I fucking wish it would have been me then.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, okay, so he is guilty. He is sentenced to death by electric chair. Now, after his conviction, his wife divorces him, which I actually respect, because she was probably waiting to see what the evidence showed. Was he really guilty? Because she had even said, she didn't talk about it for a very long time, but she did end up talking to somebody and said, I was waiting to see, she goes, I, in my heart of hearts, believed he did it. She said, I really did. She goes, but he would tell me things that it was but he didn't. And she said, so I waited till after his conviction, because when he is convicted, now you know that what you feel, he did it, right? Ronald does try to actually appeal multiple times over a 10-year period, and they're always denied. Now, during this time, at the same time that he's doing appeals and whatever, he's on death row. And the death row inmates were all housed in Ellis 1 unit. Now, it was reported that Ronald was so fucking despised by the other death row inmates because he killed a child and his own child. He was shunned. He was friendless. Nobody liked him. They hated him so much that the other inmates had petitioned to the warden to organize a demonstration on his execution date to show how much they hated him. So no, he does get a stay of execution on his first set date, which was supposed to be August 8th, 1980. Now, they give a stay of execution because his lawyer is able to produce something to want to be able to do something. So they give him a stay of execution. They have a second date set, which is for May 25th, 1982. So roughly 2 years later, this also gets postponed. A third date is now set for October 31st, 1982. October 31st of 1982. The judge who set that date literally set it for 8 years after the murder, and then offered to personally drive him to the death chambers.
Go fucking judge. Hell yes.
Badass. This was also delayed though. Yay. It was delayed due to him. He was waiting for the court to decide if he was going to be granted a new trial or not, so they can't put you to death. So they set a fourth date for March 31st, 1984. Now, on March 30th of 1984, he had actually exhausted all of his options. And at this time, the electric chair was no longer an option due to a ruling by the Supreme Court that it was cruel and unusual punishment.
Not for that motherfucker.
Ronald O Bryan is put to death on March 31st, 1984 by lethal injection.
Fucking pansy bitch ass.
It was a little after midnight. His final meal was a T-bone steak, which was medium to well done, French fries and ketchup, corn, sweet peas, lettuce and tomato salad with egg and French dressing. Motherfucker, I like French dressing too, bitch. Iced tea with sweetener, barf, saltines, Boston cream pie, and rolls.
That motherfucker should have gotten a fucking Pixy Stick.
Yeah, he should have. Yeah,
with fucking poison.
Oh my God. Yes.
They should have been like, oh, that's what you want? Here's
your
fucking
Here's
Pixy
your
Stick.
Pixy Stick, asshole. His final statement was, it's kind of a long one. What is about to transpire in a few moments is wrong. However, we as human beings do make mistakes and errors. This execution is one of those wrongs, yet doesn't mean our whole system of justice is wrong. Therefore, I would forgive all who have taken part in any way in my death. Also, to anyone I have offended in any way during my 39 years, I pray and ask your forgiveness, just as I forgive anyone who offended me in any way. And I pray and ask God's forgiveness for all of us respectively as human beings. To my loved ones, I extend my undying love. To those close to me, know in your hearts I love you all. God bless you. Oh, God bless you all. And may God's best blessings be always yours. Ronald O Bryan. P.S. During my time here, I have been treated well by all TDC personnel. To that I say,
you're going to hell.
You said it so much better than I could have.
Fucking motherfucker.
So, anywho. So he dies. And during his execution, there were actually protesters and demonstrators.
Who the fuck is protesting?
I've been thinking about this. And here's honestly what I think. Never once did he actually say he did this. Okay. And they did. I personally, looking at the evidence they had, I didn't actually see anything that solidly points the finger at him. There are speculations. There is, oh, he took life insurance out on his kids. Oh, he called them and asked them when he was going to get life insurance money. And, oh, he's the one who gave the Pixy Stix. But the guy that he supposedly went in to talk to about the cyanide couldn't ID him. His friend who said, oh yeah, he asked me about this. It's a question. And his family members themselves had said that he was very interested in cyanide. So I can understand where there might be protests. I can. I would not be protesting for sure. I would not be protesting, but obviously there are people who don't believe in the death penalty at all for anything. And so those are probably the people that were protesting.
I'd be out there going, let him burn, let him burn, let him shrivel up and burn.
Well, then you would have been on the demonstrator side.
Fuck
because
yeah.
The demonstrators there's a bunch of demonstrators there facing against the protesters, and they're cheering. They're happy. They're holding signs like, let him die. And they're yelling, trick or treat.
That's wow.
And while they're yelling this, they're throwing candy at the protesters.
They should have been throwing Pixy Stix.
We're going to hell. You know this, right? You understand.
Listen, I'm not the one fucking laughing. I'm just saying a recommendation as to what should have happened.
So they basically.
But I'm not laughing.
You are inside. I'm
not even grinning.
Listen, I said when I'm uncomfortable. That's an uncomfortable thing.
Should have been in Alcatraz.
Well, Alcatraz was closed by then, so that was
reopened just for his ass.
But I mean, okay, so anyway, so that's the story. That's the story of Ronald O Bryan, who killed his own goddamn child with a fucking pixie stick full of cyanide because he needed money because he was in debt. That's the story.
Listen, when my parents were in debt, they filed
bankruptcy.
They did not try to kill me or my brother. I'm just throwing that out there.
We filed bankruptcy, bitch. Okay, we said, oh fuck, let's file bankruptcy. Like that's how you do it. You don't go, who can I take out for some money? Like, I don't understand. For him to be such a good dad and such a good person, there had to have been an evil side in there that just nobody knew about, because greed can make you do crazy things. But killing your 8-year-old child, that just seems real fucking crazy.
I feel like if you're somebody that's able to kill like your sibling, like somebody as a direct family member, and I know that's kind of pushing it because like there's like nieces that kill their aunts, like things like that. I'm talking about like your direct like mom, dad, brother, sister, like especially parent to child. You've got to have some sort of fucking evil in you. Like actual fucking evil in you.
I mean, I kind of feel the same way because like I have 2 siblings. I'm the middle child, and growing up, I could have fucking murdered my sister, but I never did. And my
FBI, she's kidding.
And my brother and I we to this day, we can fucking fight. Like, we can fucking fight. And, but if I could never murder my brother or sister. You still have that part of you that when you're this close to knocking their asses out, you're like, no, but they're still my brother or sister and I love them, and you don't do it.
You and I, when I first moved back from college, almost fucking literally fist fought like 2 or 3 times. But could you actually have thought about killing me?
No. Well, let me think about it. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No. And that's the thing. So the thing is, I had you when I was 18 years old. We lived a really rough you lived a really rough young childhood, not for abuse or anything like that, but we were poor. We didn't have a lot of money and we were in massive debt. We had done what young people do, and we did credit cards and everything was on credit, and our home was a piece of shit home, but we wanted to live on our own. We had a car that was on credit. We had credit cards through the roof. We had furniture on credit. Everything was on credit because we both were just working like minimum wage jobs, trying to make ends meet for our family. And I can tell you with 100% certainty, never once did I go, if I take out life insurance on my husband or my kids and then kill them, my problems will go away. That never fucking came to my mind. What did come to my mind?
And that was back in 2000 when it was nice and cheap.
Yeah, when it was not
now.
what it is now. Well, and that's even now. Like right now, we live in a house with all adults. It's all of us. We're all adults. And I don't have a job. Just your dad does. And he makes good money, but good money isn't good money anymore because of how expensive it is to live. And I'm not sitting here going, well, what can I do to give myself more money?
I make a pretty decently
above minimum wage. Yeah.
And I cannot find an apartment for even like a 1-bed, 1-bath with where we live.
No.
With the amount of money that I make.
No. And sure. Could I take out like a life insurance policy on like Oreo because she's going to die in a couple of years? Probably not, because I don't think that's a thing, but damn if it was. No, but seriously, that's some real fucking crazy thoughts. And again, you're talking about an 8-year-old little boy. The other thing is, if it was like, I couldn't understand it regardless, but I could maybe see a case for it if it was like a 39 or 50-year-old man who's fighting with his 27-year-old son and one of them kills each other. I could maybe see a case for that, but it's an innocent 8-year-old son, and
you knew what you were fucking doing.
You knew it, and you were actually trying to kill both your kids.
Yeah.
Along with 3 other fucking neighborhood kids, which I don't know why you would do that. I have no idea why you would do that.
I'm going to pretty much chalk it up to either you got to be some sort of pure evil or some sort of evil in you, or you've got to hit some real fucking low in your own
that's
world.
My thing, right? And so, but that's why I'm so bummed that I couldn't find anything about his childhood. Like, I was thinking about it going, yes, this could be something that was triggered just because he was under so much fucking stress he couldn't figure out how to function in his life. I understand that. But like, or did he just get raised in a real shit household and he had no love in reality? Or like, I don't know. Like, did he need a hug? And like, did he need a hug? Because
he needed more than a fucking hug.
Like, his ex-wife, even herself, was like, there's no fuck, like, like what? But she did also say, I did see a part where she did say that he had actually lied to her a couple of times in their marriage anyways. So it wasn't a complete shock when she found out all this other shit that he had been lying about, like losing his job so many fucking times. But again, in the 80s, in 70s and 80s, it was a different time. Typically the wives stayed home and the husbands went to work. And the husbands a lot of times did the money and the bills. And so the wives like didn't know what the fuck was going on. So anyways, that is our spooky. Woo! Okay. I can't do ghost sounds apparently.
That was our spooky episode.
It's not really spooky. That was our Halloween. That was our Halloween.
That was our evil monster episode.
Yeah. That was our you gardening ass piece of shit. That was our Halloween episode of a little young man who lost his life far too early on Halloween night in 1974 at the hands of his piece of shit father. That's it. Do you have anything you want to say or add to our Halloween episode that has literally nothing to do with Halloween other than the date?
Nerp.
Okay. Okay, so follow us. If you like these episodes, follow us, share us, let people know who you're listening to. Follow us on our socials, Instagram, TikTok, X account. Hit us up if you're listening to us on any of the platforms, any of them at all, Samsung, Apple, whatever. Click that follow button so that you can get constant updates because we do release new episodes every Tuesday. And I think at this point I'm going to say, catch you on the flip side, bitches.
Bye, bitches.